From CBS 2 News, special coverage of the National September 11th Memorial and Museum dedication.
A live look from Lower Manhattan, a moment to look toward a hopeful future, as well as honor the past as the nation joins New York to dedicate the National September 11th Memorial and Museum, a new place at this hallowed site to tell the story of 9/11 for generations to come. Good morning. I'm Mary Calvi.
And I'm Chris Raggi. Thank you for joining us. The museum does not open to the public until the 21st of May, but today families will finally be allowed inside the museum. 110,000 square feet of raw emotional tributes, multimedia displays, personal narratives, personal artifacts, exploring the day of the attacks, what led to them, and of course their aftermath. The museum's director says it was designed to tell this difficult historic story, but also inspire and change the way we see the world and see themselves.
Taking another live look, the ceremony is just moments away. We will be hearing from President Obama, 4 governors, and 3 New York City mayors.
Also, we'll be hearing from 9/11 families, survivors, and volunteers who helped in the rescue and recovery operation.
Again, the dedication ceremony is just minutes away.
Well, let's quickly check in with CBS 2's Lou Young, who's there for us this morning. Lou?
We got a look at the place yesterday. It is remarkable. It has the interior feel of a windowless underground cathedral, and it might remind New Yorkers of the Cathedral St. John the Divine. It is so immense inside. The entrance is sunlit. Natural light flows in, but immediately you go downstairs and ramps into the heart of darkness and the story of the cataclysm that occurred here. The exhibits that underscore the enormity and complex intimacy of what happened. It reminded me of Yad Vashem, the Holocaust memorial in Israel, and it is really remarkable as we wait for its dedication here now. Back to you.
All right, Lou, thanks so much. You saw the space there highlighted by those 2 tridents right there at the entranceway. Just one of those things that kind of takes your breath away when you see it. Right now, it's time for the National September 11th Memorial Museum dedication. We bring you the service uninterrupted here on CBS 2.
We are here today to help dedicate a great museum, one that rises out of the bedrock of our city, our history, and our hearts. In the years to come, the 9/11 Memorial Museum will take its place alongside the fields of Gettysburg, the waters of Pearl Harbor, and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial as a sacred marker of our past and as a solemn gathering place. A place we come to remember those who died and to honor acts of courage and compassion that saved lives and lifted spirits. The outstretched hands that rushed forward that day and in the hard weeks and months that followed. In the streets of New York, on the grounds of the Pentagon, in the fields near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, from all across America and the world, kindness poured forth on a colossal scale. For on a day when terrorists refused to see our common humanity, we saw only the humanity in one another. This museum, built on the site of rubble and ruins, is now filled with the faces, the stories, and the memories of our common grief and our common hope. It is a witness to tragedy. It is an affirmation of human life. It is a reminder to us and to all future generations that freedom carries heavy responsibilities. And it is a reflection of our belief that the true hope of humanity resides in our compassion and kindness for one another. Walking through this museum can be difficult at times, but it is impossible to leave without feeling inspired. Each story here beats with a human heart, which, if we allow it, touches our own. The stories are the proof that what we do and the choices we make affect each other's lives and the course of human history. This morning, we'd like to share just a few of these stories the museum tells. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce the President of the United States of America, Barack Obama.
Mayor Bloomberg, Governor Cuomo, honored guests, families of the fallen. In those awful moments, after the South Tower was hit, some of the injured huddled in the wreckage of the 78th floor. The fires were spreading. The air was filled with smoke. It was dark, and they could barely see. It seemed as if there was no way out. And then there came a voice, clear, calm, saying he had found the stairs. A young man in his 20s, strong, emerged from the smoke, and over his nose and his mouth, he wore a red handkerchief. He called for fire extinguishers to fight back the flames. He tended to the wounded. He led those survivors down the stairs to safety and carried a woman on his shoulders down 17 flights. Then he went back up all those flights, then back down again, bringing more wounded to safety, until that moment when the tower fell. They didn't know his name. They didn't know where he came from, but they knew their lives had been saved by the man in the red bandana. Again, Mayor Bloomberg, distinguished guests, Mayor de Blasio, Governors Christie and Cuomo, and the families and survivors of that day. To all those who responded with such courage, on behalf of Michelle and myself and the American people, it is an honor for us to join in your memories, to recall and to reflect, but above all to reaffirm the true spirit of 9/11. Love, compassion, sacrifice, and to enshrine it forever in the heart of our nation. Michelle and I just had the opportunity to join with others on a visit with some of the survivors and families, men and women who inspire us all, and we had a chance to visit some of the exhibits. And I think all who come here will find it to be a profound and moving experience. I want to express our deep gratitude to everybody who was involved in this great undertaking, for bringing us to this day, for giving us this sacred place of healing and of hope. Here at this memorial, this museum, we come together. We stand in the footprints of two mighty towers, graced by the rush of eternal waters. We look into the faces of nearly 3,000 innocent souls, men and women and children of every race, every creed, from every corner of the world. And we can touch their names and hear their voices, and glimpse the small items that speak to the beauty of their lives. A wedding ring, a dusty helmet, a shining badge. Here, we tell their story so that generations yet unborn will never forget. Of co-workers who led others to safety, of passengers who stormed the cockpit, our men and women in uniform who rushed into an inferno, our first responders who charged up those stairs, a generation of service members, our 9/11 generation, who have served with honor in more than a decade of war. A nation that stands tall and united and unafraid, because no act of terror can match the strength or the character of our country. Like the great wall and bedrock that embrace us today, nothing can ever break us. Nothing can change who we are as Americans. On that September morning, Allison Crowther lost her son, Wells. Months later, she was reading the newspaper, an article about those final minutes in the towers. Survivors recounted how a young man wearing a red handkerchief had led them to safety. And in that moment, Allison knew. Ever since he was a boy, her son had always carried a red handkerchief. Her son Wells was the man in the red bandana. Wells was just 24 years old, with a broad smile and a bright future. He worked in the South Tower on the 104th floor. He had a big laugh, a joy of life, and dreams of seeing the world. He worked in finance, but he had also been a volunteer firefighter. And after the planes hit, he put on that bandana and spent his final moments saving others. 3 years ago this month, After our SEALs made sure that justice was done, I came to Ground Zero, and among the families here that day was Allison Crowther. And she told me about Wells and his fearless spirit, and she showed me a handkerchief like the one he wore that morning. And today, as we saw on our tour, one of his red handkerchiefs is on display in this museum. And from this day forward, all those who come here will have a chance to know the sacrifice of a young man who, like so many, gave his life so others might live. Those we lost live on in us, in the families who love them still, in the friends who remember them always, and in a nation that will honor them now and forever. And today it is my honor to introduce two women forever bound by that day, united in their determination to keep alive the true spirit of 9/11. Wells Crowther's mother, Allison, and one of those he saved, Ling Young.
Was it cute? Okay. My name is Ling Young. I'm here today because of Wells, a man I did not get the chance to thank. It was very hard for me to come here today, but I wanted to do so I could say thank you to his parents and my new friend, Jeff and Allison.
Thank you. I am Wells Crowther's mother, Allison Crowther. My husband, Jefferson, and I could not be more proud of our son. For us, he lives on in the people he helped and in the memory of what he chose to do that Tuesday in September. Wells believed that we are all connected as one human family, that we are here to look out for and to care for one another. This is life's most precious meaning. It is our greatest hope that when people come here and see Wells's red bandana, they will remember how people helped each other that day. And we hope that they will be inspired to do the same in ways both big and small. This is the true legacy of September 11th.
Didn't realize what had happened until that afternoon. Had no idea that our son Todd was on an airplane. I thought he was in Italy. I was off by a day. We kind of define our history now, don't we, as pre-9/11 and post-9/11. Well, here's some bits of a wristwatch. And its function is supposed to be to tell time. And it was a good watch. It did its job very well. But it doesn't tell what time it is anymore. But what it does tell is what time it was. It says it's the 11th. And so this marks the time that the successful counterattack on Flight 93 ended.
We are all grateful today to the Memorial Board, the staff, and the families for creating this really magnificent memorial. Why don't we give them a round of applause? Todd Beamer's watch was recovered at the site of the crash of Flight 93 near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. It was given to this museum by his loving family. We are honored to have his father, David, with us here today. Todd was one of 40 men and women aboard that plane. Strangers, all bound for San Francisco. They would decide to take fate into their own hands at the probable, if not certain, risk of their own lives. When the hijackers took control of their plane, people began calling family and friends who told them about the other hijacked planes. None of the passengers had been trained for this kind of scenario, let alone even considered such a nightmare. And yet, after talking over what they had learned, they joined with members of the crew to storm the cockpit. And in doing so, they changed the course of history. It was later shown that their actions prevented the plane from reaching the hijackers' intended target, Washington, D.C., a mere 20 minutes away. In giving their lives, how many lives had they saved? One of the first calls made from the plane had been from Mark Bingham, who later helped form the plan they followed. He had called his mother Alice, and Alice later left him this message.
Mark, this is your mom. Apparently it's terrorists and they're hell-bent on crashing the aircraft. There's one flight that they say is headed towards San Francisco. It might be yours. So if you can, group some people and perhaps do everything you can to overpower them. Try to call me back if you can. I love you, sweetie. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Good morning. When you walk through this museum, what strikes you is how your emotions can feel sad at one moment, and in the very next moment, you feel utterly astonished and grateful at how people from all over the world responded. It was as if the entire world came knocking on our door, cried with us, and asked what they could do. People from over 90 countries died on September 11th, and so the world understood that while this happened on our soil, it happened to all of us. Letters arrived from Australia and Jordan, gifts from India, Ireland, and Kenya, and people from all walks of life, and speaking every language, came to help us dig out from under and bandage our wounds. The world felt like a tightly knit community, a smaller, more caring place. This is how goodwill begins. In the understanding that we are, underneath all our many differences, fellow men and women with a love and a sanctity for human life. Here in this museum, we are reminded to pause and remember how many came to help us, and that the true gift of friendship and fellowship can be born out of the night, for which we all remain eternally grateful.
I dedicate this song To my late husband, Calvin Joseph Gooding. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fear relieved. How precious was that grace appeared the hour I first believed. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
My name is Florence Jones. I went to work on September 11th. I did not plan on walking down 77 flights of stairs. I wasn't dressed for it. Nor did I expect my boss to have to carry my shoes. I was one of the last of the 25 people to come out of the South Tower. My number is 18. I had taken my shoes off on the 60th floor, and I walked in my stockings the rest of the way. After that, I still walked in my stocking feet 50 more blocks to get to a friend's office, barely in one piece. When I heard that the museum was looking for artifacts, I thought about my shoes. I had put them in a plastic container, and when I took them out, they still had the smell on them from that awful day. And I knew I would never wear them again. So I decided to donate them here. I wanted my nieces and my nephew and every person that asked what happened to see them and maybe understand a little bit better what it felt like to be us on that day.
A simple pair of shoes. What could they possibly tell us about 9/11? About the choices and close calls? About the quarter-mile climb down a staircase filled with falling ceilings, crowded with colleagues and confusion? About making it out or not? Ordinary, everyday objects that we find here in the museum. A wallet, a ring, an ID card, a telephone are unlikely but powerful keepsakes which help us understand the events of that day in human terms. Each piece carries with it another story, one that might have been our own. For don't we all own a pair of shoes we wear to work that could have been the ones we wore that day? For some, the last 38 steps they walked to freedom and to life were down a narrow outdoor staircase that led to Vesey Street. These stairs were also the last above-ground remnant found at the World Trade Center site. They became both a symbol of that terrible day and the months of painstaking recovery. Workers removed the 56-ton staircase from its concrete base as carefully as one would a sacred object from an archaeological site, so that it could be placed in its new home inside the museum. Today, when you walk down the museum's last set of stairs that lead to bedrock, whether you walk slowly down the wide, elegant staircase or stand comfortably on the moving escalator, you will travel right beside the Vesey Street staircase. And as you do, imagine for a moment that these hard concrete stairs were once, for hundreds of people, the last and long-sought path to survival.
My name is Kayla Bergeron. I worked in the North Tower for 4 years. That day, everyone on our floor, people who knew each other and who didn't, started walking down 68 flights of stairs together. It was orderly and calm. And for every step we took down, the firefighters and police were climbing up. When we got to the 6th floor, it felt as if the whole world started to shake. It turned out that the South Tower had collapsed. Suddenly there was confusion, and we were climbing over wires and desks. Port Authority policemen helped us find our way through. But my friend Patty and I got separated from everyone, and we were alone thinking, there's no way out. Then we heard a bullhorn. It said that if we could hear the sound, follow the light. We went this way and that way. And after what seemed like forever, we got to the outdoor Vesey staircase. Now, I'd walked those stairs 100 times. Go to the train, stop at the post office. Never given them a second thought. But now, they were all that separated us from the devastation behind us and life in front of us. Today, when I think about those stairs, what they represent to me is resiliency of the people there that day trying to help each other, and later the resiliency of our country. Those 38 steps mean everything.
We will never understand why one person escaped and another didn't. How random it all seems, and how powerless it makes us all feel. But what this museum does is allow us to see is that we absolutely can affect each other's lives by what we do at a time of crisis. How we are strengthened by what was done that day. September 11 brought out the largest emergency response in New York City history. 1,000 firefighters, 2,000 police officers, and 100 city and volunteer ambulances rushed into action. When both towers fell, logic says no one could have survived and lived to tell the tale. The South Tower fell, and no one survived. In the meantime, the men from the New York City Fire Department and Port Authority Police were still inside the North Tower, attempting to rescue the remaining civilians. But when they reached the third floor, the 107 floors of the North Tower fell on top of them. Lieutenant Mickey Cross remembered that he heard a huge roar, and then everything went dark and totally silent. Buried in debris, he tried to protect himself by making himself so small that he might be able to climb into his helmet. When he heard faint voices calling out, he realized he wasn't alone. He sent Mayday signals, hoping someone might hear them. Hours passed. Outside, there was nothing but piles of fiery wreckage. Not only could rescuers not locate the North Tower, they didn't even know where to begin. And yet, they kept digging and digging and digging. It's my honor to introduce you to Mickey Cross and 11 members of the New York City Fire Department and Port Authority Police Department. All of them had been trapped together. God bless them, and God bless America.
We were trapped way down inside a dark hole, and after a while, we saw this small beam of light about 30 feet above us. It was sunlight that had broken through the smoke, and even though it only lasted for a little while, it was enough to let us know it was an opening. It turned out the rescue workers could see it too. When they finally came towards us, they couldn't believe we had survived and we'd walk out on our own. They continued to look for other survivors. There had been 14 of us trapped in this stairwell, trying to stay alive and searching for a way out. Miraculously, we survived. Once we got out, we saw complete devastation. The whole trade center was gone. All you could see were huge pieces of twisted steel and fires everywhere. And workers never giving up on finding people. After our rescue, many of us joined the rescue and recovery teams at Ground Zero to do for others what had been done for us. We had to. We had come together at Ground Zero to help each other out. There was a real sense of caring for one another. This is something we should never forget and never stop doing. Thank you.
I am Manny Rodriguez, and I am a member of Teamsters Local 282. I worked at Ground Zero on heavy construction for 9 months.
My name is Pia Hoffman. I'm a crane operator, and I worked at Ground Zero for 8 months.
My name is Tony Favara. I'm a detective in the New York City Police Department Emergency Service Unit. I worked at Ground Zero for 9 months.
My name is Steve Butler. I'm a lieutenant with the Port Authority Police Emergency Service Unit. I worked down at Ground Zero for 9 months performing rescue and recovery. After losing my brother Tommy, a firefighter with Squad Company Number 1, I was the first person to put his picture on this piece of steel, which we call the last column. After that, many others followed with pictures and signatures.
The last column was part of the last area that was searched.
It really tells the three stories of the building, the destruction, and this cleanup effort.
As the site was cleared and the beam came to stand alone, people that were working at the site or family members began affixing the photos.
Everybody was putting little sayings and notes on the column. We had a flag flying on top of it, and it was the icon on the site.
The sheer size of it, the number of signatures, farewells, not only to lost loved ones, but also to this new family that developed on Ground Zero.
We all became this family that worked together to try to make other families feel better. We were never going to fill in a hole, but if we made it a little smaller, then that was all we could do.
Whether it's on the column or not, that column means something to us. We completed our job, and we did a job well done.
I think that last beam symbolizes the best of what humanity can do.
Of all the heartbreaking things we had to learn how to do after September 11th, the most necessary and the most difficult was finding a way to honor every single person who was on those 4 planes, in the Pentagon or the World Trade Center towers, and those who died trying to save them. To give their families and us a place to come and remember them. Now, near where we are now, there is such a place, filled with the photos, keepsakes, and stories of those we lost. These are our book of memory. In the area called Memorial Hall, there stands a 3-story high wall connecting the footprints of the once mighty North and South Towers. On it are written 10 simple words by the great poet Virgil that express what this museum is all about. No day shall erase you from the memory of time. From there, you walk through to the wall of faces, lined from floor to ceiling with smiling fathers, daughters, brothers, nieces, family, and loved ones. In the same way we have photos in our own homes, these pictures are alive with the memories of the birthdays and weddings, barbecues and baseball games of those we lost. What you will be looking at are the pages of the chapter in our history we call September 11th.
Where? Oh,
there he goes.
There he goes.
That's a good picture.
It is. You'll be so proud of your daughter. Just amazing, just like you.
Look at all these faces. Different people. There he is.
Wow.
There you are.
This is Hannah. This
sister's shoe. This was a couple of weeks before 9/11 actually happened, so this is our last family picture.
I love this one.
Yeah, that's him. That's you, that's your smile, that's that mustache. That's you. You act just like him, right? Mannerisms, everything is just like your father. You look like him.
Yeah. And
you act like him.
And sound like him.
So many, right? There she is. I love that picture. You were 3 and you were 2, right? Remember her? But through the years, I know all these names now, you know?
Marianne LaCory Simone. Although she's very into taking care of herself and, wanting to look as pretty as possible, she was never above putting on a silly hat.
She was dancing on a bar because all her friends were 30s. Yeah. And she was 50s. She hung out with them. Remember she told us she had gone to the biker bar the night before? Back then it was embarrassing, but now we're doing the same stuff.
And when he heard the call on the radio, he told his partners, we gotta go. And he just ran up the stairs and he just hailed a cab and he went straight to those buildings. And he did what he had to do. He had to go help people.
He used to do things so spontaneous. He would just get up and, come on, get up, we're going here. Let's do something different today. He just felt that life was too short to plan things. And I think I learned that on that day.
Robert Chin. Robert Chin. I see, right there. That's Uncle Robert.
That's Robert.
Mama adopted you and named you
Roberta Hope Chin, because I was the new hope for the family.
That's right.
And I am his niece and namesake.
Yes, you are Uncle Robert's niece and namesake.
This is a place where thousands of stories converge, where we can touch the face of history, our history. And yet, while we come here to remember the past, it is the future, too, that stands with us in this hall. To truly honor that day, we must promise both to keep our memories of it alive and to search for ways to build something positive in the names of those we lost. They were the pride of their families and the pride of their countries. Their stories, their spirit, and their examples can live on as our guides and our beacons by making their names and their lives stand for something meaningful in our world. What greater legacy can there be for the lives cut short than to live in the good works created in their names?
My name is Ada Rosario Dolch, and my sister Wendy worked in Tower 1 of the World Trade Center. I worked 2 blocks away as the principal of a high school that encouraged leadership and public service. That morning, it was my job to protect our 600+ students, but I couldn't protect my sister. My whole life has been about educating children. After Wendy died, I was with friends and said, imagine if we went to Afghanistan and we built a school there. What a kick in the head to Osama bin Laden. Kathy Allerton and countless others joined forces, and 4 years after 9/11, a school was opened in my sister's memory in the province of Herat, Afghanistan. About 200 boys and girls came to study, and since then, many, many more. all of them entrusted with education and their country's future. There can be beauty out of the ashes. It's hard work, but it can be done.
My name is Jim Lachak. My younger brother Dave was at his desk in the Pentagon on September 11th. He was a civilian working for the Department of the Army. After the attack, many wondered, how will we remember those we lost? As family members, we needed to find a way to honor and remember them, and in the process, maybe find a way to heal ourselves. Working together with friends, colleagues, families, supporters from around the world, we opened the Pentagon Memorial on September 11th, 2008. It is a place we remember 184 men, women, and children, a place to provide solace and healing surrounded by the beauty of life. My brother Dave and I had been young together, and we expected to grow old together, play a lot of golf, and argue about who had the better-looking grandchildren. Now there will be children born after 9/11 who only read about that day in books. Some of them might even think the people it happened to weren't real. But we are here to help them know that they were. My hope now is to create an educational center at the Pentagon Memorial where school children can come and spend some time getting to know their country's story and the very real people who lived it.
We'd like to end our dedication ceremony on a note of hope that all the visitors to this museum, those who lived through the tragedy, and those young enough to be learning about it for the first time, will come away with a sense not of the worst of humanity, but of the best. There are hard history lessons to be learned here, but also shafts of light that can illuminate our days ahead. To all those who have worked so tirelessly to bring this museum and its ideals to life, we owe you our deepest gratitude and appreciation, and special thanks to Joe Daniels, President, and Alice Greenwald, Director of the 9/11 Memorial Museum. This museum is a testament to the resilience, the courage, and the compassion of the human spirit that lies within each and every human being. So I think it's only fitting then that we bring our ceremony to a close with one of Aaron Copland's most enduring and life-affirming pieces, Fanfare for the Common Man.
You've been watching the dedication of the 9/11 Museum, dedicated to one of the darkest days in American history, and also dedicated to the fearless courage of so many on that day.
110,000 square feet. At the heart of the World Trade Center site, they are telling you the story of what happened that day, the stories of those who were lost, the innocent, the first responders. An 8-year odyssey now culminated with the opening of this memorial museum, this dedication ceremony today. It opens to the public on the 21st, the centerpiece of that Ground Zero site.
And we will have much more on CBS 2 News at noon. Thank you for watching. I'm Mary Calvi.
And I'm Chris Raggi. Much more coming up at noon and, of course, today at 5. Thanks for joining us here today.
This has been CBS 2 News special coverage of the National September 11th Memorial and Museum dedication.